This is Excel Module 2 SAM Textbook Project. I have already navigated to the assignment links in Blackboard. Please note it says it's not compatible with Office for Mac. I haven't seen anything inside of this particular textbook project that wouldn't work on a Mac. There's a theme change, but my Mac students said that they had that particular theme, so I'm not really sure where the problem or issue is. So I'd still just watch the videos if you can't do it on your Mac. So we'll start. And we want to continue because we have to get the name of the file that's expected. I'm just copying it. And then I'm going to select the file. I'm going to navigate. I'm just going to use my online class today. I have an Excel folder 2. Then I'm going to select the name and do a Control-V to paste the new name in and save it, and we'll open it. And it opens up into, let me bring it over from the other screen. Oh boy, my mouse is really crazy today. Let's see if I can get some changes going here that'll make it behave a little bit better. Okay, we're going to try to live with that. There we go. So we start out with a blank document again, only this one will work better than the first one. We want to create a project that uses formulas and functions and also some formatting. In the textbook, they give you some wonderful advice about what you should do when you're looking at creating a project for the first time. For example, figure 2-2 talks about what do you need this worksheet or workbook or spreadsheet to perform. What's it supposed to do for either you or the users who are going to use it? What are the sources of data? And very important, what are the calculations that you have to perform? Excel needs you to create nonlinear equations into linear equations. There are several built-in functions for both statistical, mathematical, engineering, information. There's a whole bunch of a variety of functions that are built into Excel. Then they show you a little sketch of how they've drawn out how they think the data is going to look on the worksheet that they're creating, and they kind of explain that to you. So we'll just go ahead and get started. In cell A1, we're going to type in Clepore Engineering, enter, and then salary report, enter, employee, tab over, email address, tab over, dependents, tab. Now we're going to do a stacked heading here, so we're going to type the word hours, H-O-U-R-S. Then you want to hold down the Alt key and tap the Enter key. And I've been told by my Mac people that instead of the Alt key, it is an Option key, Option Enter, and it works the same way. Now we're going to type the word worked, and you'll see how it's showing up underneath hours. When we tab over, it's going to make the height of that row adjust for that wrapped heading. The next one is also going to be wrapped. It will be hourly, Alt Enter, pay rate, 2 words. And you have to either enter or tab over so it puts the words in there. I've had some students who weren't completing the process, and they said, I can't get it to go where it's supposed to go. And I said, you just need to hit the Enter key. So, you know, make sure you're doing that or tabbing over. Gross pay is the next column heading. Then we have federal tax, state tax, tax percent, net pay, and hire date. And when I hit the Enter key, it may take me back to cell A4 to the column A. But sometimes if I had to stop and fix something along the way, it may only bring me back to that location. So what I typically do is if it doesn't take me all the way back to where I want to be, I do my hold down the control key and tap the left arrow key on the keyboard, and I'll get right there to it. Now, we are ready to type in the employees' names. We have Altor, comma, space, and it's Benie, B-E-N-I-E. Tab twice because we're going to do something different about the email address. Number of dependents is 3. Hours worked, 74.50. You can actually just type in 74.5. The hourly pay rate is $35.25. $35.25. And we're going to tab all the way over to hire date. We're going to calculate those other columns. 9, 5, 10 with slashes. It's going to convert this, when we hit the enter key, it's going to convert it back to a 4-digit year. And notice it doesn't take me all the way back to column A now. And I'm going to enter another one in, and then I'm going to pause this while I enter the rest of them in, because you'll have those available to you. So we have Fox, Linda, tab twice, 1 dependent, hours worked is 80.00, and 33.10 for a pay rate. Hire date is 10/17/12. And again, we're going to enter these in. So I'm going to pause this while I finish doing the rest of these. Okay, I have entered in the data, and I always think it's a very good idea to proofread the names, proofread the numbers, and I go down the columns as I'm doing it instead of reading it across. Since I entered it in going across, it makes me look at the numbers differently. So I have proofread my numbers and my dates so I know that they are correct. Now, I do want to demonstrate a little something that's not in the textbook. Let's say, for example, that you typed this last date in the wrong cell. All you have to do is you can select it. Control X will cut it. You can also go up here and get the scissors on the clipboard. Control X to cut. You get a little dancing marquee line. Click where it's supposed to go, and then you could paste it, or I'm going to do a Control V, and that'll put it in the right location. So if you messed up, not tabbing over far enough while you were typing in the dates, you can certainly fix that and fix any other thing as well. Alright, now the email addresses. I'm going to widen column B. I just want to be able to see the email addresses as they come in, and I'm also going to widen column A. It's just going to be easier for you to see what's happening. Now, there's a new tool called Flash Fill. It's been with the last couple of versions of Excel. And what it does is it looks for patterns in the data and then automatically fills in the formatting and formats the data in the remaining cells based upon those patterns. You have to give it probably a couple of examples to work with. In our case for the email address, the policy is to type in the first letter of their first name and then type in all the rest of their last name, all lowercase. The @ symbol and then the domain name, in this case is example.com. Now it's going to turn into a link. The next one would be lfox@example.com. And we probably have enough now so that we can use the Flash Fill. Flash Fill is located in the Data tab, and in the Data Tools you're going to see Flash Fill is up at the top. When you click on that, it's going to fill in, and sure enough, I'm going to click away from it, Jermaine J. hand-filled at example.com all the way through O. Wilson. But something happened in cells B1 and 2. Well, it got so happy about finding these repeating patterns, and it saw that there was data up here in the column A, so it tried to figure out what it thought it was supposed to be in the first place. So all we're going to do is select those. Now we want the plus sign. We don't want to click on it to try to open up an email. Kind of to the side there, just click and drag down and hit the delete key on the keyboard to clear out that data. So now we've got our email addresses where we want to, and I'm just going to resize these. I'm going to leave them like they are for now so it's easy for you to see them. So we've done the flash fill. Sometimes you could just give it one pattern, but it's better to give it, at least two to play with, so it knows, that it's got the pattern correct. Now we're going to go to cell A13 and click there and add the word totals. And then we're going to go down below that. We're going to type highest. Notice how Hanfield starts to show up because it's been typed in this column before. But as I start to finish out typing the word highest, it will allow me to type that. Lowest, and then average, thanks Altor, but if you get the V in there, you'll see that it does let you type on. And then at this point, I'll just hit the enter key. Down at the name of the sheet, they want you to double click, and they want to name this salary report. I'm going to misspell it here for just a second. I'm going to add an S to the report. They want you to right click on the tab and change the tab color to, let me find it here. I gotta find it now. It is blue accent 1, column 5. So blue accent 1. And you can see that gradient fill. Now, why did I misspell that? When you have your data all entered in, your calculations are working, and you've made it beautiful with your formatting, and you go to submit this to Sam for a grade. This is a practice grade, but you go to see how you did. And you'll get back maybe a terrible, terrible score. And when you start reading all of the things that you missed, you're saying, I did that, I did that, I did that. And yeah, you probably did because you're looking at it, right? But the actual error message that Sam's trying to convey to you is that it could not find the worksheet because you have a misspelled word or something in there that's not supposed to be there. So it's saying I can't find this page, so I can't grade it. So instead of zipping it to me with an email saying I did this all correctly, and I'm sure you did, check to see if you've misspelled the names of any of your sheet labels down at the bottom, the names of your sheets. I just have to double click inside there and then click once after the S, backspace it off, and hit the enter key so I've got the correct name. But I wanted to point that out because that could be, in some cases, the reason why it wants to count everything wrong is because you don't have the name of that worksheet titled correctly. All right, entering our formulas. Now, they give you in several places, they give you the formulas that you're supposed to work with. We're going to calculate gross pay, hours worked times hourly pay rate. We're going to calculate the federal tax, and the federal tax has a couple of constants in it. It's going to be 25% of multiplied by, and in parentheses we're going to have gross pay minus dependents times 22.16. For each dependent that you have, you're going to be able to take off 22.16 from your gross pay. So that's your adjusted gross pay. And from your adjusted gross pay, you're going to pay a tax rate of 26%. For the state tax column, it's a simple multiplication of 0.055 times gross pay for state, 5.5%. The tax percent is the federal tax plus the state tax added together, and we'll need parentheses around that because we're dividing that whole expression by the gross pay amount. And then net pay is going to be the gross pay minus, in parentheses, federal tax plus state tax. That way we get the correct calculations. So the first way we're going to do this is we're going to click in cell F4, Simple formula, no function involved. We're just going to type in equal, and we know it's the value in D4, so I'll type D4, and I have to multiply. You have to have your numeric operator, or excuse me, arithmetic operator, and it's going to be multiplied by E4. Now, I typed everything in lowercase, but you'll see how the rangefinder color codes things for you, so you know you got the correct values. You just have to remember to put in that arithmetic operator. When you hit the enter key, you'll see how much money there is. Now, what I have noted, and students will ask me, well, mine says 2626.13, and yours says 2626.125. Well, if I've zoomed something in with my zoom control, that means it's going to show different on mine than it is yours. When we format all of these things with 2 decimal places, that's when we want to be, hey, it didn't do it right, you know, or hey, it's working right, one of the two. We're going to click in cell G4 where we're going to calculate the federal tax. Now, the federal tax, this time I'm going to type in the constants, which I have to, but I'm going to point and click on the variables that I'm using for the calculation. So I want to start off with the equal sign, 0.26, and that's going to be multiplied, so we're going to use the asterisk for multiplication, and we need an open parentheses. We want to click cell F4, which has gross pay in it. Give me just a second here. Yeah. So I'm going to click on F4 where gross pay is, and then I have to say the minus sign, and I need to have cell C4, which is the number of dependents, times 22.16, and I'm going to close the parentheses. Now it color codes those pieces that are variables, and it just shows us the constant values that we typed in. So I'm going to hit the enter key. And that is the correct answer. I've got 4 decimal places right now, but that's the correct answer. The state calculation is a little easier. Simple formula with a constant in it. So it's going to start off with equal 0.055 times the asterisk, and that's going to be multiplied by gross pay. So I can just do the point and click on that one, and I hit the enter key. Now the tax percent is going to be let's see here. Federal tax plus state tax in parentheses. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Federal tax, I'm going to point and click, plus state tax, close parentheses, divided by gross pay. And then net pay will equal gross pay, F4, minus, open parentheses, federal tax plus state tax, close parentheses. So we should have 1816.18, 1804, whatever. It'll be close enough once we take care of formatting. Now, the next thing is to copy these formulas using the fill handle. So we're going to select F4 through J4. Notice that my mouse pointer is that big plus sign. I click in the middle of gross pay and just drag. I'm not getting the fill handle. I'm just making a range. Then I'm going to get a hold of the fill handle with my skinny crosshairs and take it down to row 12. So I don't have to worry about trying to, copy these formulas. For example, the cell that has 143 for state tax is that constant value for the 5.5% times the value in F10. Well, F10 is gross pay for Jill Spaulding. So everything calculated like it's supposed to. All right. Now, we want to do some totals using our AutoSum button. So click in cell D13, and remember our AutoSum button on our Home tab. We're going to go to it and just click it. The dancing marquee lines go around the correct range. Just hit enter. Now we're going to select E, not E, you don't want to do that to E. Hourly, you're not doing a total of hourly pay rates is a number doesn't mean anything to you. We're going to select F through H as an empty range and do the AutoSum, and this time it just very quickly adds up the columns. In column J, we don't want to do percentages. In column J, we want to find a total using AutoSum. Correct range again, we just hit enter. Then I'm going to come back over to cell I13. The total tax percent or percentage. We want to use the formula that calculated the tax percent rates. So I'm going to click in the cell that's got the last one that we calculated, that's I12. You can see how we calculated it up at the top. We're going to grab the fill handle and take it down, and when we click on that cell, we're going to get this little warning. This formula differs from everything around it. Yeah, it does. When you click on that, first of all, it says it's inconsistent. That means it's inconsistent with the surrounding formulas that are being used. If there's an error, you can get help, but actually this is not truly an error. It's just a different calculation. So we're just going to say ignore the error. Now you'll see that instead of using the sum of a column, which wouldn't give us any true nature, good information here for the tax, instead we want to calculate it where we use the values of G13 plus H13, that's the federal and state tax for totals, and divide it by the total gross pay to get the correct value here for the tax percent. Save what you've done so far. Now, we want to do some statistical calculations, so we're going to click in cell, let me make sure I'm the right one here, C14. We're going to play with the number of dependents. We want to find the maximum number of dependents in a range of numbers, the minimum value, and the average. And they show us different ways to go about finding those functions. So the first one for highest means we're going to use the max function. One way to get to your functions is to use on the formula bars to use the insert function button, F of X. The dialog box pops up. If you know what you're looking for, like if you want to say selects the maximum value in a range of values, you would probably get max to show up. If you have used max before in most recently used category, it'll show up very quickly there. Or if you know it's a statistical function, you're going to have to drag down till you get to max, but max is listed there. So select max and say OK. Now we have to tell it the correct range. Right now it is including C13, which is blank. We don't want to include that. Two ways to fix it. We can either click at the end of the number 1 selection, change that 3 by backspacing it off to a 2, and that'll fix it. Or if we took the whole thing off, we could then go over to C4 and just drag down and paint the range. and you'll see C4 colon C2 is in the box. Either way, say okay. The most that we have there, the highest number is a 3. For minimum, they want us to go over to the auto sum button, and there's a pull down list arrow. So we're going to click on that, and you'll see min is one of the choices for minimum value. Now here's the problem with the min. It's only looking at the value just above it, which is the value we just found with the max function. So it's not going up and including everything. So you'll notice that it is highlighted with a gray background. So I can click in cell A4 and drag down again to just cell A12 to get the right range in there. Or I could have clicked in there, deleted that, and typed in the correct range myself. So when I hit the enter key, 0 is the lowest. Now average, they have you just start typing the function name. So equal A, let's see if it recognizes that I'm typing one. And then there's the AV, and I'm going to double click on average. Make sure you get average, not average A. And you'll see it's ready for you to tell it what the arguments are. Again, you can highlight that range of C4 through C12. And I like to go ahead and put the closing parentheses. And when you hit enter, that's the average. And yeah, it's got that many 4s after it. So we're going to save that. Let me get to the right page now. We've done the average. Okay, so now we want to copy these over to our adjacent cells, adjacent columns. So we want to select C14 through C16 as a range first. So we just big plus sign, just drag down until you make a range. Then you're going to go to get a hold of the field handle and take it all the way over to column J. And it's going to calculate highest and lowest and average for each one of these. Now we have one value that's not actually a number. Looks like a number to me. Select I-16. Now, column I is a tax percent. Average is finding the average of the tax percent. You don't get a correct number. It's mathematically invalid to find an average of percentages in this range we have. It's a non-number. Even though it gives us a result, it's not a useful number. So we're just going to delete that. Now, verifying your range, if you just were to go up to your first tax percent one in cell I4 and you just double click, you can see all the pieces that made up that calculation. You can see what you used as the arithmetic operators and also parentheses. And we all know parentheses gets done first. But it's also letting you see which of these values that you used and do you have them in the right order. And then you can just hit the, or you should just check mark the green check mark for enter. You don't want to accidentally click somewhere where you have that active or it'll add that particular cell to your formula, and you don't want that to happen. Should it happen, use undo immediately. Okay. Now, we're going to format the worksheet so it looks better, and we're also going to try to use what we call conditional formatting. So I'm going to save what we've done so far, and we're going to change the theme. So first and foremost, we're going to go to page layout, and themes is right there at the beginning. And they want you to choose gallery. Now I see one here, but if I also scroll down, I see another gallery here. They're both the same as far as I can tell. So I click this one. Notice how things get a little smaller here. I'm going to try to make this a little bit smaller just to kind of so it fits the way I want it to fit. They will have us change the widths here in just a moment. We're going to select the range to be merged of A1 through K1. Remember how we did a merge and center in the last or the first module? We're going to do it here again. We want to be on the home tab and we want to choose merge and center. We're going to select salary report A2 through K2 as a range, merge and center. Now, we want to apply the title cell style to both of these. So in this case, I'm going to click and drag down from A1 to A2, and I want to go to Cell Styles, and I want to choose Title. And then they want me to click on cell A2, and both of these are set at 18, but we're supposed to make this 16. They have you use the decrease font size one time, and it becomes 16. The only way you're going to know it's 16 is to look at the picture in the book. Okay? Now, we want to change the background color and apply a box border to our worksheet title and subtitle. So I'm just going to click away from for a second. What we want to do is just select these two together. Not as individuals, but together. And then we want to change the field color. And I believe it is indigo. So it's the next to the last column from the right side. And it's the second one from the top. Indigo accent 5, lighter 80%. Then while we still have it selected, we want to change the borders to outside borders. I'm going to click away from that. Now it's really easy for us to see the borders on the right hand side and underneath. If you were to change the page layout view, you can now see that your top border is there and your left hand side border is there as well. We'll come back to this, so I'm just going to switch back to normal view. That dashed line you see between H and I shows you where the page break is right now. Alright, so let's see what else we need to do. We're going to select A3 through K3, and we want to use the heading 3 style, cell styles, heading 3, and we want to use the center button to center those over their columns. We will widen the columns where everything works right. We're going to select A13 through K13. And we're going to go to Cell Styles, and we're going to choose the total. I'm just going to click away from that. Then we want to select A14 through A16, highest through average, and we want to boldface it. Already it's easier to read, but our numbers are terrible. You know, it's really hard to read our values. Now, formatting the dates and centering data in cells. Select all the dates, so K4 through K12. Remember, we typed a 2-digit year and they gave us a 4-digit year. So what we need to do is we're going to go to the number group, and there is a date up here, but we want to pick and choose what we want. So we're going to go to the number dialog box launcher button, and we just want to make sure number selected, and we have date in the category. The one that they want you to use is the 5th one from the top under the types, 3/14/12. No leading zeros and only a 2-digit year. So when we click on that, it's going to look like they wanted it to look like in the first place. Select C4. Make sure I'm getting it right here. C4 through C16, and we want to use the center button in the alignment group just to center our number of dependents and the values for highest, lowest, and average. Now, we want to select a range of E4 through H4, and we're going to do some non-adjacent ranges here. So E4 through H4. Now, these can take on dollar signs. Hours worked is not dollars, it's units of hours, okay? We don't want the tax percent to be dollars and cents because it's supposed to be percentages. However, net pay would be good to have selected. So we're going to do a control, click on net pay. Now, I've let go of everything and I'm just rolling my mouse around, and I'm supposed to select F13. I have to hold down the control key. F13, control, click and drag across the column H. and then click in J13. So you have 4 non-adjacent ranges. There's not a value here because you're not going to total up the hourly pay rate, so that's the reason why you don't see anything selected for this. Now, we want to use, in this case, the accounting number style format. Now, you may get some data that's too small to show up. All you have to do is go between that column and the next and do a little double click so you can see the data inside that particular cell. Then we want to select E5 through H12. E5 through H12. And we also want to select with a control click J5 through J12. 2 non-adjacent ranges. Use the comma style. Select D4 through D16, and we want to use the comma style on it. Starting to look a whole lot better. Okay, now applying the currency style format with the floating dollar sign. We want to select two non-adjacent ranges. We're going to select E14 through E14 through H16. And then we want to hold down the control key while we also select J14 through J16. Now something just happened and caused me to lose that. So I'm going to try that again. I'm not quite sure, something popped up. So I have the 2 non-adjacent ranges. Now, I don't have what I'm looking for here in the number group, so I have to launch the dialog box. This time under category, I want to choose currency. Depending upon how you want to represent negative numbers, may or may not give you a floating dollar sign. We're going to choose the third option where the text will still be in black, but it'll be in parentheses if it's a negative number. So we're going to click on that and notice that these are right up against the first significant digit, whereas what we see in E4 and E5 and so on is there's space between the first significant digit and the dollar sign. So the accounting number format is a fixed dollar sign, and this currency allows me to be floating. Okay, so we want to select the percent values because we haven't formatted them yet. So I4 through I15, and we want to use the percent style. Now it's giving us quote unquote whole numbers. We want to have 2 decimal places with this. So next to the comma style is the increased decimal. We're going to click it 2 times so we have 2 decimal places in our percents. Now that looks nice. I'm going to click away from it for a second so we can admire what we've done. And we are going to save it. The next section deals with conditional formatting. And I like this one. I really do. I think it's really neat to be able to emphasize certain things. Okay? So what I'm going to do first is I want to select the range of D4 through D12. Hours worked. We're going to concentrate on each person's number of hours worked. And I want to be able to emphasize those that have worked over 70 hours. So I'm going to do a conditional formatting for those. In order to do that, I want to go to conditional formatting in the styles group. Now there are some preset types of rules. And we could just go to the greater than instead of having to create a new rule, but they want to show you how to create a new rule. I love data bars. See how they draw the chart within the data itself? The largest items are the 80 hours and the smallest one is 42.25. It's really easy to see that with those little data bars. Unfortunately, they don't have us use those in this one, but we go down to new rule. Now we want to choose format only cells that contain, we have a cell value. Instead of between, we want to use greater than. And in the far right box, we're going to type in 70. If it's 70, it's not going to be selected. It's got to be greater than 70. Now we have to tell it the format. What is it we want to format it with to emphasize these? So we're going to click on the Format button. We're on the Font tab right now, and we're going to change the color, and I believe it's going to be, look, I've got to check the purple here we're using. Column 8, row 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Purple accent 4. Now, I'm sorry. That's not the font color. That's the background color. So we want to change this one to white. Sorry about that. Then we'll click on the Fill button, and we're going to choose gotta make sure that's the right one. Oh, I'm gonna go one over. Thank you. It shows it in the box, in the picture in the book. So it's got to be on this first row here. So I'll say OK here, and now you see the white letters on the purple background. And we'll say OK, and I click away from that. Make sure that all the numbers that you're looking at in purple are greater than 70, and they are. So I don't know, the boss may be looking at this. I don't know if this is a weekly or a bi-weekly. I didn't read through all the scenario. Shame on me. But he may be, or they may be, it may be a group of people who make decisions for their company, but they may decide that, you know, we need to ask Linda and Jill, do they really want to work 80 hours a week? Or maybe it's 80, if it's 80 hours bi-weekly, that's 40 hours a week, which is full-time. So, you know, that might be something for us to look at. The other thing is I can look at the ones that are below the number of hours, you know, and if I look at 42.25 and I've got that person, Savannah, maybe a part-time person, and maybe she only works like 20 hours a week, and sometimes she works a little bit over that. So I am just setting this up so the decision makers can determine how they want to interpret this information that we've provided. We're going to save it. Now, we need to definitely need to adjust the column heights or column widths and then the row heights a little bit. First and foremost, we're going to point at A and click and drag across A, B, and C. And in between any one of those boundaries, we're going to just do a double click. So it's just wide enough for everything in those three columns. That's a best fit. Now, we're going to click away from that so we can just go to column H. And they want us to drag that until the screen tip says 10.38. Now, I've got it on 10.38, 88 pixels. But sometimes when my mouse lets go, I see it adjust. And they don't tell you this, but this is what I'm going to tell you. If you're not sure that you can stop your mouse right where it's supposed to be when you're dragging this, go to the Sales group and go to Format and click on Column Width, and it'll let you know if you got it typed in correctly. It's 10.38. Hey, that's what it's supposed to be. So I can just say OK. So I can always double check those. So in case I let go a little early or my finger jerks a little bit, you know, I can fix it very easily there. Okay, column D. So we're going to select column D, control click column E, and then we also want to select column I, so that's a control click for column I. And I'm just going to point between D and E, and I'm supposed to drag this till the screen tip says 10.50. And I'm having trouble stopping it there. I'm hoping that's right, but while they're still selected, this is the time to do it. go to Format, Column Width, and just double check that it's 10.5. Now we're going to select column F and G. So I'm going to click away from those columns for a second. I'm just going to point it down at column G with the downward pointing arrow, select it, and then I'm supposed to select column J and K. So I'm going to hold down the control key and select those two. I want to drag the boundary till it says 11.13. So I'm just going to select here and drag it till it says 11.13. And it's really hard for me to stop. Again, while they're selected, I'm going to go to Format and look at column width, 11.13. I'm doing better in here than I was in the classroom. Alright, so I'm going to click away from that, and we need to adjust some of the row heights next. And you might as well go ahead and save it. Now, the row height. We want to point at the boundary below row 3. So right here, the boundary underneath row 3 between 3 and 4. And we want to drag that down until the screen tip says 39.00. That kind of gets you a little more room between it and the subtitle. And then they want to go down between row 14 and 15, and they want to drag that down until it says 24. Now, if I'm not sure I got 24 there, I can click on the row number. I can go to Format and choose row height, and I can see if it's actually 24. And the same thing for row 3. I can click on the row number. I can go up to Format, row height, and make sure that I stopped right at 39. So you should be able to make those changes if you need to, because your mouse is a little bit too sensitive. I'm going to save that. Now, they want us to deliberately misspell the word employee, so we're going to go up here to employee. And I'm just going to double click so I can be inside the cell itself, and I'm going to spell imp. And see, I got to remember how they did it. They transposed the O and the L. Employee, okay? So, it's kind of hard for them to have red squiggles and stuff in this one. So they want us to start in cell A2. I'm going to start in cell A1. I always start it in cell A1. Now, if you have your spell checker on your quick access toolbar, or if you want to add it, you can click on the pull down menu and add the spell checker. Or you can go to review and you can find it as the first thing in the proofing group. Now, it doesn't know Clopor, but I've got it spelled correctly, so I'm going to ignore all. Now, employee, it does stop on that one, and I'm going to fix that by changing it to that. It doesn't know Altor, so I'll ignore all. I'm just ignoring these, and I'm good to go. Now, I'm going to go down here on my name of my worksheet, and I'm going to make a mistake of that, okay? And I'm going to put my insertion point at 18, and I'm going to run spell check again. Yes, go ahead. Now, it's going to stop only on those words that we stopped on before for people's names. Notice that it does not catch the mistake I made down here deliberately. So, you've got to proofread that one. Alright, save what you've done. Alright, let's take a look here. They walk you through printing a worksheet. And you have to put in a header. So you do need to work through these. You just don't have to print it. So what we want to do is go down on the status bar and click on the page layout button on the status bar. This is going to show us, and notice that a couple of my values are too small. We get little hashtag symbols, or we call them pound signs or number signs. And what that really means is I need to widen these columns to best fit. But for right now, let me see what I can do with the margins and stuff. So first and foremost, I'm going to now go to the page layout tab on the ribbon. I hate when they use the same name for the two different things. Click on margins and choose, make sure that's the one we're using here. Yeah, narrow. Okay. And then they want us to go ahead and type in the middle header where it says add header. We're going to type in Madeline Samuels. Enter Chief Financial Officer. Helps if you spell chief right. Now I don't want to hit enter key or anything like that. I'm just going to click somewhere down below. Notice how it repeats that header, okay, in this instance. Now they want us to go to the page layout tab, and they want us to choose orientation and make it landscape. Even though we made it landscape, we still have one column that's sticking out over on another page. We could try to, you know, fit this to one page before going to the print menu, but we can also take care of it at the print menu. So that's where they have us take care of it. Now, let's see. They have us change that orientation. And then here's where we're going to take care of these values here. So between F and G, the boundary, just double click to make it a best fit. And then between J and H, just do a double click to get that to open up. Now, I'm assuming that we eventually go back. Nope, we don't. I was going to go back to normal view, but anyway. We're going to go to, let's see, we took care of J and F. Good deal. So we're going to go to File and Print. And at least you'll see it's one of two pages. We didn't have all those extra pages that we had a problem with in the other textbook project. And what they want me to do here is to change the scaling to fit sheet on one page, which is nice. There's enough room for it. Still can read it. And then they'd have you print this, you know, with the print button. I'm not printing. I'm not going to waste the paper. Then they have us to select a range that we want to print. So we have to get out of, because when you tell it to print, it would take you out of this. So we're going to go back here, and we're going to select the print range A3 through F16. We just want this much. So we've highlighted it, and we're going to go back to File and Print. Now, it's still showing the whole thing, but we have to go here to our settings and tell it to print just the selection. Notice there's also a print entire workbook. If you had multiple sheets, you could tell it to print. If you had a chart on another page, pie chart like we did last time, you could print the whole thing. We're going to do print selection, and so we'd only print this when we clicked on the print button. Now there's other ways to select that, but this is one way to do it while you're in the print screen itself. Now they want us to switch back to normal view. So I'm going to get out of the print, and I'm going to go to normal view down at the bottom. And they want to show you how you can display the formulas in your worksheet. You hope that nobody destroys your file. You know, you save this file, and hopefully you've got backup copies. Sometimes, though, you might need to print out what the formulas are, where they can, you know, what they look like. So if you had to recreate this one from scratch, you'd have something to go by. And I'm going to show you another little thing they don't show you. All right. So if you'll do, and it's kind of hard to tell you what button it is, but you're going to hold down the control key on the left hand side, and just above the tab key there's like the eyebrow symbol they call a tilde. That's not really the one you're getting. It's the one below it that's called an accent mark that's leaning to the left. It's called a grave, G-R-A-V-E. So hold down the control key, tap that button and let up, and anywhere you used a function or anywhere you used a formula, you can now see those. And you could print this out if you needed to. And I'd be a little bit leery trying to print it out to fit on one page. It probably will fit on one page, but it'd be kind of hard to see these. Get a magnifying glass. So it would be okay if you let it break between pages if you wanted to. But you could print this. And then when you're finished with this, you could do another control accent mark to change it back. Now I just want to show you, I'm not going to print, but I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. Okay, page 1 of 1, that's not what it's supposed to look like. Well, let's go to print selection and say we want to print active sheet. Now we got it, okay? And like I said, it's really hard to see, but you could read it. Now, we've still got fit sheet on one page down here. I don't have any alphabet letters to tell me which the column names are or the row numbers. You could probably figure it out. But there is another thing you could do. Now let me find where I'm at here. I don't want here. I want it to be, yeah, page layout. In the sheet options, you could check that you want to print the grid lines and you want to print the headings. So when you go back and look at it this time, see the column letters across so you know which column you're in, and also the row numbers. You may not know the sizes of some of these that you adjusted to, but you would have everything you needed to recreate all of the formulas and the functions, and you'll know what the data was supposed to be originally for this worksheet. Now I'm going to go back out of here. We're going to do that control accent mark to convert it back. They tell you to go back to file print, and they want you to change that fit sheet to one page to no scaling. And let me just double check that's the only thing they have you change back. And another way that they did it, so I'll show you their method as well, is they went to the page layout tab. Here we are, and we launched the dialog box. And from here, where it says adjust, they had a different number here, and they wanted you to type in the 100 there for the normal size. So that's the difference between how I did it and how they did it. Let me just say okay. So what we want to do now is save it one last time. I like to park myself in A1. And we'll try to submit it and see how it goes. And of course we waited too long, so we'll have to go back into our Cengage link. Let me find the textbook project for 2. And we'll launch it. Okay. Start. And we want to, I want to make sure that I've closed it out, so let me make sure. Okay, I'm done with that. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, so I want to find my file, and I put it in my online class Excel 2. There's the file I want to open. Got the right file name, we'll submit. And hopefully we can review a really good report. Now we're going to let that save in the same location, our report file, and we'll open it up. Yay, 100 out of 100. You'll see that it gives you a graded summary report as a different worksheet, and of course there's what you did. Okay, and if you had anything wrong here, it would also mark it here, and would have little when you pointed at a little, I think it was a yellow or a green, no it's not green, yellow or orange little marker, you could click on it, it would tell you, you know, the same thing as what you would see here if you missed something in one of these. But I want to show you here real quickly, it didn't grade our spell checking. It did grade the printing of the worksheet where we had to change margins, header, and orientation. But it did not grade displaying and printing the formulas version. So we had to go through the motions of printing without actually having to print. Okay? Well, that concludes this particular textbook project for Excel Module 2, SAM textbook project, and I hope it helps.